Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pesto.
Considering I just boiled water for the first time, I do think making your own pesto is crazy. You want to know what else I think is crazy? So when I was 20 years old, I was modeling to pay my way through school. I got my associate degree at community college, and then I was planning on transferring to a university to get my bachelor degree. But my modeling agency in Chicago also had an office in LA, and they were kind of interested in me, but not 100% sold, which totally understandable. So they were like, maybe you should spend some time here and see if you're marketable, and if you are, you can move here instead of going to college. When I tell you, this felt like winning the golden ticket in American Idol. I was like, Mom, I'm gonna be a star. I scrounged up all my money, bought a plane ticket, hopped off the plane at LAX, did the whole thing. Within my first few days of being in LA, I booked a job, which was fucking crazy because there are so many beautiful models in LA and we're all going up for the same jobs. There's so much competition. So the fact that I booked a job was like mind-blowing to me. Mind you, this job only paid a couple $100s, which is not much compared to A, the cost of living in LA, and B, the rate that most other modeling jobs paid, but I still felt like this proved to my agents that clients in LA would book me, so I was through the fucking roof. Day the shoot comes, right? I take an Uber pool from Pasadena to Venice Beach, which took like 3 fucking hours, but I couldn't afford an Uber X. Some things about the shoot were a little weird. Like when I walked into what I found out was an Airbnb, there were men laying around with like girls kind of fawning on them and empty beer cans everywhere. But you know, it was my first shoot in LA. I was like, maybe this is just Hollywood, baby. I was just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, happy to be there. Also, my call sheet said to come with no makeup on, clean hair. So I did that. And when the owner walked downstairs, he was like, do you have makeup? And I was like, no, they said someone's gonna be here to do it. And he was like, yeah, no one's here to do your makeup. So I was going around to the girls asking them if they had any mascara, anything to make me look more presentable. And they seemed really annoyed that I was like talking to them at all. So eventually him and I walked down Abercrombie, I think is that street in Venice. Came across a Smashbox store where I guess if you spent a certain amount of money, they would like do your makeup for you. So he bought me makeup, which was so exciting. And then the girl did my makeup. She put a bright red lip on me. It was interesting. So no hair, no makeup. I also found out that guy who owned the company was styling me. He pulled out this bag of like really cheap Shein-esque clothing that was pretty provocative, but you know, again, I'm just happy to be here. Eventually the shoot ends. I take my Uber pool back to Pasadena. I'm getting ready for bed. I start getting texts from that man, the owner of the company, pictures of drinks and food, and he's like, come out with us. Keep in mind, A, this man knows I'm 20 years old. He was in his 30s. And B, I had never had a modeling client contact my personal cell phone other than me texting them like, hey, I'm here if they needed to let me in. But again, it was my first experience working in LA. I was like, maybe this is just how it is here. And I was like, sorry, I'm 20 years old. I didn't have a fake ID. I was like goody two-shoes. I was like, I'm going to bed. Thanks for the shoot. Go back to Chicago. It is decided I'm going to move to LA, but it was like the holiday time. I had to pack up. So there was like a month I had at home. During that month, the man, the owner of the company, added me on Snapchat and was constantly Snapchatting me. Again, in his 30s. Don't forget that part. So I'm answering him because I'm 20 years old. I just broke up with my high school boyfriend. I'm stuck in the suburbs of Illinois. I'm bored. I'm heartbroken. I moved to LA. He convinces me to go on a date, a hike. I'm like, sure, why not? I have nothing better to do. No friends, no money. I go on the hike. I fall madly in love with this man. Keep in mind, I was in a huge Lana Del Rey phase, so I thought it was so cool I was dating an older man. He was also insanely charming. He had so much money that he was being so flashy about. He had all these cars. He was sending me dozens of roses and getting me gifts. I was in Los Angeles, California. It was all so blinding and what I now know to be love bombing. I was literally calling my mom being like, he's the one. This is it. I was head over heels. But then things started getting a little weird. So this man was constantly talking about how much money he had and how successful he was. But when I first went over to his apartment, it was this little studio the size of like a bathroom with a twin-size mattress on the floor that we both slept on and would have to push against the wall if guests came over. Otherwise, we wouldn't fit standing in the apartment. Also only had a mini fridge, a crock pot, and then the sink in the bathroom. But I came from no money. I'm not one to judge. I was like, this is fine. This is great. That was his apartment. But then he had 4 cars. All of them were VW things. Do you know what a VW thing is? I didn't. And they were all different colors, all stick shift. And he didn't have a parking spot for any of them. So every single morning we would have to wake up and move the VW things to different streets that didn't have like street cleaning or because like the meter would run out of time. He would get mad at me that I didn't know how to drive stick, so I couldn't like help him. Even though he had 4 cars, he would make me Uber pool from Venice, where he lived, to the model apartment I was staying at in Hollywood almost every single fucking day because he needed space and I couldn't be around too much, but he also couldn't be bothered to drive me anywhere, ever. For our birthdays, which were 2 days apart, I will never fucking date a Leo again. I spent all of my money on the most thoughtful, customized gifts for him. And when it came time for him to give me the gift, I opened a card to a $100 Uber gift card. The sweet little baby 20-year-old me was so grateful for any bit of kindness he would show me, because at that point of our relationship, I was constantly getting in trouble for shit. For example, one thing I would get in trouble for was not shaving every inch of my body every single day. So if there was ever a little bit of stubble on me, he'd be like, whoa, you're getting comfortable. That's kind of gross. Eventually, to help me keep track of all the rules, bless his heart, he made me a little booklet. Like, he literally took a piece of paper, folded it up, made a little book, and each page had a different section. So it was like, wake up before 7 a.m., make the bed, journal, meditate, call your mom. A huge one for him was to eat keto. I was not allowed to eat any sugar or carbs, to the point where he had these little sticks in his bathroom and would make me pee on them and test whether or not I was like releasing ketones to prove that I didn't eat sugar that day. You might be wondering, but Madeline, what was your incentive to abide by the rules of the little booklet? Thank you for asking. I would love to tell you. So I was supposed to mark each thing I did every day, and each mark was a point, and he told me if I got to a certain amount of points, he would buy me pizza and take me to Hawaii. Like I was a little kid.
Beautiful little picture, like a child in the corner.
Another friendly reminder that I'm 20 years old at this point. This man is in his 30s. The intermittent reinforcement he's giving me has me by a fucking chokehold. So I'm doing it. I'm waking up every day, marking my little booklet. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention, another thing I would get in trouble for was fighting with him. So another cute little fun couples activity we did was have a joint notes app where we would keep a streak of however long we could go without me picking a fight with him. Picking a fight, aka calling him out for things like his younger cousin telling me that he forced him to go into a brothel in Europe and do things he didn't want to do. But if we ever got in a fight, we'd have to erase our streak and I'd have to start all over again, and it would really affect my chances of getting pizza and going to Hawaii somehow. I don't remember. I ended up living with that man because, long story short, I was kicked out of the modeling apartment I was staying at in Hollywood because I was making no money. And so since I had no money, I had nowhere to go other than his apartment, which I was really grateful to have. But luckily, he was going to Asia for a month to do God knows what work, allegedly. But anyway, when he came back, he was like, okay, when I get back to my apartment, I want you to be sitting on this one specific hanging chair he had, blindfolded, wearing white lingerie and red lipstick. And he was like, I have a credit card hidden. Take my credit card, go to Victoria's Secret, buy a new white lingerie set. I'm like, hee hee, okay. I get a credit card. I go to Victoria's Secret. I pick out the white lingerie. I go to check out. The card declines. I'm so embarrassed that I pull out my own credit card, which is already maxed out on the European Wax Center package that I bought to make sure that I'm completely hairless at all times, and spend $100 I didn't have on this white lingerie set. Anyway, details. Shortly after he's back, we break up and get back together and break up and get back together and break up and get back together and break up and get back together until I am successfully a shell of myself. I am isolated from all of my friends and family. I am depleted of any joy or self-respect I've ever experienced in my entire life. I'm terrified of sugar and carbs. I knew we were really done for good when he went to Mexico and blocked me, and I was like, you know what? I need to pack up my shit and go back to Illinois. Like, I am not okay. So in the last week-ish that I have in LA, I get an email from my modeling agent saying I booked a job. I'm like, thank fucking God, because I needed money. I'm reading the details. It's my ex's company. He booked me for a job, and I couldn't say no, and he knew I couldn't say no because I didn't have any fucking money. The day the shoot comes, I take an Uber pool to Venice Beach. I'm sobbing my eyes out the entire way there. I get out to find that the photo shoot is being filmed for a German reality show. So this man is with his mom, walking around like he's the king of the universe, being followed by a German camera crew, who eventually pull me aside to ask how it must feel to be booked as a model by such a wonderful man. And I burst out crying in the interview on camera. Eventually, I'm finally living back in my parents' house in Illinois. It's very much that scene in the All Too Well short film where Sadie Sink is laying in her bed sobbing for months at a time, when one day I get an email from my ex with a link to the German reality show that I was a part of, that I, to this day, have not watched. And only recently has he stopped emailing me because I haven't blocked everywhere else. I never once answered him, and he emailed me consistently for 6 years with links to things such as this, saying that's us. Pretty sure the only reason he stopped is because 26 is a little old for him. So yeah, narcissistic abuse that forever affects the way that you exist in relationships, crazy. Making your own pesto? Also crazy.